Did I just do 100 damage? Hey everyone, I'm Ronan and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a new kind of build video for you talking about Rogue. Not a multi-class video whatsoever, but a pure Rogue video. If you think about all the martial classes in game, they have one thing in common. They all gain extra attack at level 5, except the Rogue. It's the only martial class that doesn't actually gain that. So what's the point then of going all 12 levels into Rogue, because we know if you multi-class, a lot of the power is within those first couple of levels. Take for example Gloomstalker, one of the most common subclasses for the Ranger of how fun it is, and it's very rogue-like, and it's very commonly paired with the Assassin or Thief. So then what's the point of being a pure rogue if you could have more power by multi-classing? Well, that's what we're going to figure out. I'm going to try to make a pure, viable rogue build that is not only fun, powerful, but something you would want to try. Before we get into it guys, selfless plug real quick. I do have members on the channel now, so if you want to join, definitely feel free. You'll gain some additional benefits. And I will be live streaming everyone. My first live stream is going to be Friday, November 24th, which is Black Friday, starting at 11 a.m. EST. So definitely stop by in the live chat. It'll be really fun to talk with you. Alright, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. Alright guys, before we talk about my Assassin and my Thief build, because I do have two different builds, I do want to talk about a couple of things to visualize off the community wiki website here. Link in the description down below, really great resource. Levels 1 through 12, if you think about the benefits of what you gain, this is a great resource to use. So for those who don't know, rogues have sneak attack damage, which is a way to help make up for not having extra attack. The way it works is you have to have advantage, which has a benefit and a negative. If you don't have advantage, you don't do any additional damage whatsoever, which kind of sucks. But when you do have advantage, not only will you roll 2 dice, it will take the higher dice roll, meaning your chance to hit goes up and your chance to crit goes up as well. There's some other benefits to this too though. Sneak attack damage as you level, if you take a look at your levels here, every odd level you gain 1 additional d6 damage to the level. So level 1, your sneak attack damage is 1d6. Level 3, 2d6, and it keeps increasing like this all the way until level 11, where it caps out in Baldur's Gate 3 at 6d6 damage, which is a lot of bonus damage when you think about it. Here's the downside. Feats, for example, like Savage Attacker that normally re-roll damage, do not affect sneak attack damage. It's a little unfortunate, I wish it did, but it is what it is. Most people will be using finesse weapons as a rogue anyway, but if you think about using it with a strength weapon, you can't, so if you play rogue, you're going to be finesse. Okay, so with sneak attack out of the way, I do want to talk about some of the other things you'll gain here. Firstly, rogues are one of the special classes in the game that have an additional feat. I know fighters get one at level 6, but rogues gain an additional feat at level 10. Normally, you'll only gain a feat at level 4, 8, and 12, while rogues get an additional feat here at level 10, which is really useful because depending on the type of gear and playstyle you use, there are a ton of feats that are going to be available to you to really enhance your gameplay. When it comes to a lot of the front-loaded benefits you gain at level 2, you will gain additional bonus actions for sneaking, dashing, and disengaging. This is really strong. Although there are other subclasses in the game like Gloomstalker that can also hide as a bonus action, the fact that you can do all 3 as a rogue is really strong. It makes for great get in and get out kind of tactics as well. You gain your expertise twice. If you see, you gain expertise at level 1, expertise at level 6. Basically, this means you will gain additional proficiency bonuses to things you're proficient in. For example, sleight of hand. With expertise, your sleight of hand is going to be super strong. Basically, a way to visualize this is if you have a proficiency you like and you will be really good at it, going from good to a master, expertise will let you do that, and you will almost rarely fail any checks that you have expertise in. You have some other benefits here as well. At level 5, this is for most people when they multi-class, the kind of like the level they cap out at. Some people don't even get to level 5, they only go within the first few levels, especially for Thief since you gain 2 bonus actions as a Thief. But Uncanny Dodge is really strong regardless. This is a reaction you can use once per turn to cut damage in half. It's just really good defensively, and it helps keeps rogues alive since they don't have a lot of HP. If you keep going down, you have another defensive ability called Evasion. And this is something that monks also gain as well. The way this works is if you have a dexterity saving throw spell affect you, if you pass the check, you take 0 damage, and if you fail, you take half damage. Normally, it's not like that at all. Normally, if you have a spell that requires a save, and you pass the check, you take half, and if you fail, you take full. So with this bonus, for dexterity spells only, bare minimum, half damage, best 0 damage. So it's pretty strong defensively. We already talked about the extra feat you get. And of course, at level 11 for all rogues, you gain reliable talent. Basically, if you have something you are proficient in, no matter what, the bare number you can roll is going to be a 10 for that dice. I don't know if this affects critical fails or not, because I haven't gotten one on my rogue for something I'm proficient in yet. So it might, but for everything else, you're probably never going to fail a check for something because you're going to get at bare minimum 10 to your roll, which is pretty cool. So with that being said, there's a bunch of other things we're going to talk about when we talk about gear and the build itself. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Alright guys, this is my starting stat spread. The reason I have it set up like this is because if you do want to use the Hag's Hair, you certainly can. For this build, however, I do not think it's worth using at all. I think you could use the Hag's Hair for someone else. When it comes to my skill proficiencies, I do have it set up like this. I have Sleight of Hand at +7 because I do use this character a lot to steal, and I did put expertise into perception in order to get this up higher, that way I can see my environment better. The reason I have it set up like this is because I really like my rogues being able to stealth around, see things that other characters may not necessarily see, and because I like stealing things because it's a great way to make gold in this game, is why I went with Sleight of Hand. Okay, so your 2 subclasses that you get to pick at level 3 will be Assassin or Thief. Unfortunately, Arcane Trickster, I tested it out. No matter what I do, I cannot make this good. It's just so much weaker compared to the other subclasses. So Thief is very powerful. You gain an additional bonus action, giving you 2 bonus actions overall. Really strong because that means you can utilize additional things like dash, hide, and disengage during combat and still attack with your offhand. You also have second story work. Basically, you take 50% less damage from falling. Somewhat useful, but very niche. Assassin, on the other hand, is going to give you a lot of bonuses at the start of combat, but after combat starts, those bonuses tend to fall off. Basically, you have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that haven't taken a turn yet, which is really nice because you do need advantage in order to do your sneak attack damage. You have the Assassinate Ambush. At the start of the combat, assuming you do have creatures that are surprised, it doesn't mean you start first. It means the creatures are literally surprised, meaning they didn't know you were there and you open up on them. There is a difference. If that happens, every attack you do will be a crit, including sneak attack damage, which is really powerful. And then you have Alacrity. Basically, at the start of combat, it restores your action and bonus action. This sounds really good in theory, but if you start combat in turn-based mode, it's going to restore that anyway. So this is very, in my opinion, lackluster. So if you learn to open up in turn-based mode, this is kind of useless. So overall, I do think Thief is stronger. However, Assassin, especially when you get some really strong endgame gear, it's a little ridiculous. Okay, so there's going to be quite a few different feats we're going to talk about. And because you are leveling 1 to 12, I'm going to knock out all the feats for you here. That way you can choose what you think is going to be best for you. Remember, going pure Thief, you get 4 feats overall at level 4, level 8, level 10, and level 12. So naturally, with our stat spread being 17, you're going to want to get that up to 18 and then 20. You have a couple ways you can do it. If you start out, you could go ability improvement, but that kind of wastes it. I feel like there's going to be a better option here. Although there is some really great light armor you can get at the end of the game, especially if you are evil, there's a very large amount of medium armor, which is really useful in this game as well. Normally, rogues do not get medium armor. That is something you have to either learn from being a certain race like Githyanki, or you multiclass, or you learn it from a trait. We're not multi-classing, so this is going to be where we choose medium armor. Moderately armored right here. As you can read, you gain a medium armor proficiency, and this will give you +1 to strength or dex. We're going with dexterity. If you don't want to use any medium armor here and you don't care about medium armor, I would say go for athlete and choose dexterity. But we're not doing that. We want medium armor because some of the armor that you can use in this game, like I said, is going to be really strong for medium. Alright, so you're level 8, you get your second feat here, and in my opinion, you have 2 options to choose from. You could go ability improvement now and get your dexterity to max, which is never a bad thing. If you want to use heavier weapons, say any versatile weapons, any rapiers, things like that you want to dual wield, you do need to actually have a feat for it called dual wielder. I want to point out, this will give you +1 to your AC and allows you to dual wield those weapons. This does not give your offhand any scaling. In order to do that, you either have to multi-class, which we're not doing because we're being a pure rogue, or there is some armor and specific weapons that will scale specifically for your offhand. So this dual wielder is only if you want to dual wield heavier weapons. There's going to be weapons we already talked about that are really, really strong, so it's going to be up to you and whether you want to do that. So you can choose dual wielder here. If you plan to use any type of bow, one really powerful thing, in my opinion, you have to have is going to be sharpshooter. Sharpshooter, in my opinion, is such a fantastic ability. You take -5 to your attack rolls, but do additional 10 damage, and you no longer have disadvantage when shooting people at high ground when you're at lower altitudes. Really, really strong if you plan to use a bow as well, something I would highly recommend. Let's go ahead and just get ability improvement now though, because this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the easier things to do, and you want to get your dex max anyway. Okay, so for our third feat, you could either go ability improvement again if you want to get your other stats up, which is never a bad thing, you know, it's pretty good. In my opinion though, I am going to take sharpshooter here because I do like having the option to use my bow when needed, and sharpshooter just helps out for getting extra damage when you can afford it. So that's what I'm taking. I don't feel like I need dual wielder because the weapons I want to use personally don't require it. Okay, so you have your final feat here, your fourth feat. There are a ton of different feats you can choose if you really wanted to go in depth with other things. In my opinion here, some really good things are going to be you could go with being lucky. The lucky trait is huge. Being able to basically re-roll attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws and things like that are just really, really strong and can really help you in a pinch. Now, one thing, if you're going to be using dual crossbows, instead of getting lucky, I go with crossbow expert. That way, if I wanted to use dual crossbows up front and personal, I certainly can. And it makes your piercing shot a little bit stronger. Alright, so I'm just going to simply open up. You can see I am using the bone spike helmet here, along with the legendary daggers, and these things are just absolutely cracked. Are super strong. I'm actually going to open up with my menacing attack melee, and I'm going to hit this target here in front of me. Alright, so she's gone. One thing to note, your aura right here, make sure you toggle it on and off. That way it will come on during combat. It doesn't affect anyone that isn't actually in combat with you yet. So here I'm going to open up with menacing attack melee to showcase just how absolutely strong this is on this character here. And you can see I did a lot of damage. I didn't get to use my sneak attack stuff because it was already used on my opening turn. So that is one benefit that you'll have as being an assassin versus a thief. But either way, I still did a lot of damage. So I'm just going to use my offhand melee attack now. And I'm going to use my Misty Step. I could come up here. Instead, I'm just going to come over. I'm going to bite one of these guys with my Vampiric Bite or with Ascended Bite. They're both very strong. We'll go with Ascended. And honestly, I'm just going to end my turn here. I'm not going to bother to charm him. So normally they would hit me, so I'm going to re-roll with the lucky dice. He missed, so now I can use my True Strike riposte here and hit him back. And you can see I literally just one-shot him with that. Super, super strong. So the reason why these daggers with the ballast armor are just absolutely cracked is because of that retaliate right there. Look at all the damage I did just from retaliation. Really crazy. Pierce, force, pierce, pierce. I mean, all this stuff it's just so strong how it stacks, which is why I really like it. So now we can go ahead and attack this person here. They were saved from menacing attack, but you can see I still did a lot of damage to them. So now I'll go ahead and use my offhand attack. They're gone. I could use another offhand attack if I wanted, which I'm going to do. And that's why Thief is pretty cool. You get the extra offhand attacks. And this is with my offhand attack not scaling. If I would have added the gloves right here, my offhand attacks would do even more damage. I just like getting the really big burst on someone with my sneak attack and everything else instead. Alright, so I'm going to open up on this guy up top here, just so I can get him out of the way. Alright, so he's dead. I just did 72 damage to him. Alright, so I'm going to open up on her right in front of me. Let's go ahead and open up with piercing shot. So she's gone. Piercing shot's so good. Allowing the gushing wounds in the enemy so you do additional damage is nice because it will affect your sneak attack, which is really good. But it's only once per short rest. Alright, so it's my turn. So I have a few things I could do here. You can see there's just in range of my aura of murder without me having like any threatened thing on me. So I want to turn toggle dual wield off. I don't want to waste both shots here. Let's go ahead and attack you since you have a higher chance to hit. You know what? We'll hit him. That way I can basically kill him in one hit. So I could paralyze him now if I wanted to. I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and use my offhand attack here. Or I could bite him instead. If I bite him, I will end up getting some better bonuses. Because I am a Asterion, I'm happy now, so I get +1 to my attack rolls, saving throws, and ability checks, which is really, really nice. I'm coming back here because I want the guy that shoots to like come closer to me. And the reason I can't retaliate against them is because they have extended range with their halberds. I have to be next to them, and the guy hit me anyway, so I can't retaliate there regardless. But in case you were wondering why I couldn't retaliate like I did with the other showcase, that's why. They have to be in range of your melee attacks to do it. Alright, so now you have a couple of things here. So the beginning of my assassin bonuses, the auto crit, is gone now. I'm not going to auto crit against any of these guys, which is a little unfortunate. So I could attack him, but you can see I'm threatened. This is why I like the boots. Instead, I can just simply Misty Step, which I'm going to do. And now I'm going to open up on this guy and attack him. He's gone. Killed him. Fantastic. So let's just come over here and end my turn. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Why play Assassin? Well, to be quite honest, I feel like the Assassin subclass gains all of its benefits within the first 3 levels. So if you do want an Assassin subclass to play, in my opinion, you're better off multi-classing with Assassin, but I do find Pure Thief to be really powerful as well. So all these guys are next to me again. Because I do have Crossbow Expert, I could technically shoot them, and you can see I don't have disadvantage because of it. But my chance to hit isn't that great either. If you take a look, I can't actually hit them because they are too close to me. So this is when, if you were a thief, it'd be better because you could disengage like I am now and have an extra bonus action still. I don't. So instead, I have to just attack these guys regularly. And because I didn't crit, he doesn't die. But that's basically how the build works if you want to do dual crossbows. As a thief, I also think it's better anyway, because then you get the extra bonus action to use your offhand attack with. But that's the build there for that, in case you did want to see the assassin version. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about gear. Alright guys, we are talking gear, Acts 3, 2, and 1. Let's start with helmets, because I think the helmets are pretty interesting. If you want to go for crit stacking, you have Saravok's Horned Helm. This is medium armor, which is why I did want the medium armor feature. Really powerful. Getting extra crit chance is huge. You can't be frightened. And Constitution saving throws +1. Overall, it's just a really badass helmet, and I think it personally looks really sick. If you'd prefer another great helmet in Act 3, you have the Bone Spike helmet. And I know what you're thinking. Why Bone Spike? Well, I'm going to show you why. Take a look at your attack. And I am Ascended Asterion, which is why I have all the extra necrotic damage. But you see it says 10 to 27. Not bad. Let's put this helm on. It gives you menacing attack that you can use once per turn, which is really great. And look at the damage. It's 14 to 31. So every time you attack with your main hand, because you only have one attack as a rogue, you can do menacing attack, which has a chance to fear their target, which is just, that alone is huge because fear is really powerful in this game. But it does extra damage as well. So if you want extra damage with your main hand melee attack at all times, you would go with the Bone Spike helm. Obviously, if you're using a bow, you don't need this. For Acts 1 and 2, Acts 1, realistically, wear whatever helm you want. But once you do get to Act 2, one of the best helms is going to be the Dark Justiciar's helmet. This is just straight up strong. You get +1 bonus to saving throws against spells. While obscured, the number you need to roll a crit is reduced by 1. And you have Constitution saving throws +1 as well. This is just really powerful. It's another way to get extra crit pretty much whenever you want as a thief, because you can always hide as a bonus action, which is really strong. I just don't think it really fits the thief motif here with the way it looks, but is a very powerful helm. So looking at cloaks, you have the Shade Slayer cloak. Really strong. Anytime you hide, you're going to be considered stealth, so your chance to crit will go up. This cloak stacks really well with the Dark Justiciar's helmet and the Saravok's helm, obviously, for extra crit. If you're going to be an assassin, because you only have one extra bonus action instead of 2, you may want to use something else like the Cloak of Displacement for better survivability. Obviously, in Act 2, you can get the Cloak of Protection +1 AC and saving throws. And if you are a thief, in my opinion, one of the strongest capes in the game is a Cloak of Cunning Broom. This thing is literally broken. You can use Disengage. Bam, you leave a smoke cloud. This is absolutely insane. So the reason why this is really strong is the fog clouds are great to blind enemies, but if you have the Eversight ring, you can't be blinded. So this is a great way to get advantage on your enemies and just be super survival, because enemies will be blinded when they attack you. Chances of them hitting you is really low. But it makes the game, in my opinion, on Tactician too easy, so I tend not to use it. When it comes to your chest pieces, there's going to be a few different chest pieces I want to talk about. Starting with the evil route, if you do want to be the Ballish champion, you have the Ballish armor. It gives you aura of murder and +2 to your initiative rolls, which is really cool. The passive is something you can toggle on and off. Because your weapons that you're more than likely going to use will be piercing, this just gives you double damage to all enemies that normally aren't resistant to piercing damage. Really strong. Probably the best chest piece in the game for a murder-esque rogue, but it does require you to be evil. So for Acts 3, an alternative, the Armor of Agility is really strong. This is medium armor. It adds your full dexterity for your AC, which is that's insane. Let me go ahead and put it on real quick. You can see your AC goes up to 23. It doesn't look as great. I think it pairs with the helm that I have on, but I still don't like it all that much. It's medium armor that kind of looks more platey, but it's just a strong effect. Really powerful, and gives you saving throws +2. For Acts 2, you have the Dark Justicier's Half Plate. Again, another really great chess piece. Advantage on Constitution saving throw checks is never a bad thing. You have Shard's Aegis for extra AC. And while obscured, you have advantage on stealth checks. So if you combine this with Dark Justicier's Helmet and with the Shadeslayer Cloak, you have an entire build basically set up around stealth just from that alone. When it comes to chess pieces for Act 1, realistically use whatever you want, but another great chess piece is the Yuan Ti scale mount here. It's very similar to the Armor of Agility, it's just a little bit not as good. It gives you +1 to your initiative rolls, which is never a bad thing, but it doesn't give you as much AC. But still a very solid chess piece that you can get in Act 2 real easily from the vendor. When it comes to gloves, there's going to be a couple of gloves I'm going to talk about. In Act 3, you can buy the Stalker gloves to gain +1 bonus to your initiative rolls, and whenever you do sneak attack damage, you do additional 1d4 force damage, so it makes your sneak attacks even stronger, and having more advantage, or more initiative I should say, is never a bad thing, because that means you get to go first. If you would like to have your offhand attack scale with your dexterity modifier, you're going to want the Gloves of Balanced Hands that you buy in Act 2 from Quartermaster Tally. You equip these and now your offhand attacks will always scale with your dexterity modifier, assuming you go finesse. Really, really powerful. Another great pair of gloves is the Legacy of the Masters, +2 to attack rolls and damage of weapons. And there's one other pair of gloves I do want to point out. The Bone Spike gloves in combination with the Ballast armor is nice, because this will make it so no one is ever going to be resistant to piercing damage, so you can always have Aura of Murder on any enemy you want. Boots. Okay, so let's start with something from Act 1, which is one of the best boots in the game for a rogue, especially a thief, and that is going to be the Speedy Light Feet. These boots are insane. You get these super early underneath the windmill. Whenever you dash, you gain 3 lightning charges. It's medium armor, which is why I took the medium armor feat really early at level 4. Really, really strong, because this will allow you to pretty much dash every turn to increase your movement and also add lightning charges so you do additional damage with your attacks. One of the best boots for a thief in my opinion. Assassin not so much since you only get 1 bonus action, but for thief, really, really strong. Of course, in Act 1, in the Grimforge, you can also get the Nightwalkers. Probably my favorite pair of boots in the game. These are just ridiculous. Can't be webbed, entangled, ensnared, slip on grease or ice, and you get Misty Step for free once per short rest. Probably one of the best boots in the game. From Act 2, you can get the Evasive Shoes, +1 AC and Acrobatics. And in Act 3, assuming you save Damon and all the Tieflings, you can get Boots of Persistent, giving you Longstrider and Freedom of Movement for free. Very, very powerful. When it comes to your neck pieces, in my opinion, pick whatever neck you want. Obviously, in Act 3, you can get the Amulet of Greater Health. Very, very strong. I like going with the Surgeon's thing here that you get in Act 2, because you do have a really high chance to crit. Whenever you do crit, you can paralyze that target once per long rest, which is huge because that makes all other attacks within 3 meters guaranteed crits, and it's a great way to CC someone. This is a really strong necklace that is fantastic for bosses or just general big fights. Other necklaces, the Amulet and Misty Step that you get in the Goblin Camp. Again, Misty Step is so nice. And then I also like the Amulet of Ball here as well. Rings, there are quite a few different rings you can use. I'm only going to go over a couple. The Risky ring that you can buy in Act 2 from Mirage and Moonrise Towers, probably the best rogue ring in the game. Advantage on attack rolls, meaning you will always sneak attack with your attack at all times because you will always have advantage. Really, really strong. You're going to hit. You're probably going to crit. Super strong, but you do have disadvantage on saving throws. So if you use this, I would definitely say pair your rogue next to a paladin so you can get the aura to increase your saving throws, or put some saving throw gear on. It's going to be up to you. The other ring, the Eversight ring, everyone knows how strong this is. I wanted to point this out because this pairs exceptionally well with the Cloak of Cunning Broom. Other than that, pick whatever ring you want. It's going to be up to you on what you think is going to be best for your character. Okay, probably the time you guys have all been waiting for. Weapons. So let's start with bows because they're the easiest to cover in my opinion. If you're going for crit stacking, the dead shot is really great. The number you need to crit is also reduced by 1, so you can get your crit chance up pretty dang high of this build. You get keen attack as well, just overall one of the best bows in the game. It is a longbow. Normally, thieves, or rogues I should say, don't have proficiency with longbows. It's only short bows and hand crossbows. So this is great because if you choose any type of elf character, whether it's a high elf or a wood elf, you will get longbow proficiency. And you can read, I get that from Elven Weapon Training here. This bow is just really great. If you like to use crossbows, you have the hand crossbow you can buy literally in Act 1 from any vendor. It comes from Damon and some others. You have to just reset their stock to get it. Of course, you can dual wield these, which makes having dual crossbows really strong. So you could have hand crossbows. The demon inside Act 2 in Shar's Temple sells the Hellfire hand crossbow. Really strong. Gives you Scorching Ray, weapon enchant +2, and you have a chance to burn while hiding. And then, of course, you have the Never Misser, which does force damage, gives you magic missiles as well. And you can buy this from Roa Moonglow in Act 2. Really strong. My number one suggestion, if you go to use the hand crossbows, if you dual wield them, you will for sure want to use Gloves of Balanced Hands, because this will make your offhand crossbows scale with your dexterity. And in my opinion, it's a super strong build to do. Kind of breaks the game because of how strong it is, to be honest, but it's very powerful, and for sure you want to use these gloves with it. Another great bow in Act 2, Darkfire short bow, weapon enchant +2, fire cold resistance, and you learn haste. Alright, now let's talk melee weapons. I do want to point out one specific weapon in Act 3 first. If you play a human or anything that's a half-elf, you will gain proficiency with halberds, glaives, and polearms. The Dancing Breeze is a glaive that is finesse that you can buy in Act 3. You can use this and still actually get sneak attack damage. So if you want to be a rogue that uses a two-hander for whatever reason, and I do have a fun two-handed rogue build down below if you want to see it, use this. It's really powerful. Of course, in Act 1, you have the Alluve, a really great finesse longsword. So if you do want to use something that's two-handed right from the start of the game, you can. And if you want to dual wield this with a rapier or something else, you do need the dual wielder feat, so keep that in mind. Sword of Screams, that comes from Nair inside Grimforge, really strong, just an overall great early rapier to have. Alright, so when it comes to other weapons, I'm going to suggest. So in Acts 1/2, so when you're at the Mountain Pass, Knife of the Mountain King, I mean, this is one of the best weapons in the game. Super powerful, gives you a lot of things here. Chance to crit's reduced, which is fantastic. When you roll 2 or less, the damage die is re-rolled. Shadow Blade, you have advantage on attack rolls if against creatures that are light or heavily obscured. Just a really great weapon for dual wielders. And another great weapon is the Justicier's Scimitar. This thing is actually cracked. It has a really unique weapon enchant here and weapon skill called Shadow Soaked Blow. This thing hits really hard because it adds your proficiency bonus to the damage, deals additional psychic, but it doesn't break concealment. Meaning you can be hiding and open up on the enemy and still stay stealth and not even enter combat. It's once per short rest, but it is very powerful. And in my opinion, if you're going to be a dual wielder rogue, dual wielding these in both hands is absolutely insane. And of course, if you have advantage with the Justicier's Scimitar, you have a chance to blind your target as well. And once you do get to Act 3, you have, of course, the best weapons in the game, Crimson Mischief. This thing in your main hand is super broken. It's absolutely ridiculous. In your main hand, when you have advantage, you do additional 7 piercing. Really strong because it also has built-in necrotic damage. Really powerful because you do additional piercing damage against targets with 50% HP or less. And if you're using the Ballast armor, everything this does is going to literally be doubled. It does so much damage. And then of course you have the Bloodthirst in your offhand. The number you need to crit is reduced, so even more crit stacking. But you can see when a creature misses you with a melee attack, you can retaliate and gain True Strike and increases your AC by +1. Basically, when you have this, if the enemy misses you, you retaliate, you do great damage. Really, really strong. If you want to have an offhand that scales with your dexterity without using these gloves right here, the Crimson Mischief can go in your offhand and do that. Alright, well that's basically the build, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. The next couple videos will be crit stacking, which is going to be really, really strong. One for dual wielding, one for bows, one for spells, and one when it comes to big two-handers. And I also have my unique item tier list coming as well. I have a bunch of requests I am working on, but definitely comment below any requests you want to see and I'll try to make one for you. I'm Ronan, thank you for making it to the end, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.